extra
the
mile where you need to
desperation,
be.
isn't there? Like that, I have to succeed is like Theo Walcott for me is a classic example of someone who literally had money thrown at him from being 16, 17, and you could argue hasn't delivered anywhere near what he could have done when he was promised as the new Thierry Henry.
Then that's I mean, I guess it's difficult to say where he could have gone.
I'm not having to go to him personally,
Yeah.
I'm using it as an excuse, you know. To be fair, he hasn't had the best of luck, but just saying, like, maybe if you said until 18 years old you can't earn any more of that, like, not salary cap it permanently, but to 18.
I actually think the salary cap in sports isn't the worst idea.
Or unless it's put in a trust, the FA or the PFA or whoever can put it into a trust, so you can get it at a later date when you're a little bit more responsible.
And so, at what point do you think? Because you say you realised you maybe weren't as the best player in the academy, but what point did you begin to pull away and become the Alan Shearer that?
I never thought I was ever the best, and that's what kept me going. I always wanted to get there, and I wasn't the best even. I mean, I was lucky enough. I scored a hat-trick on my debut at 17 for Southampton against Arsenal, and the next Sunday morning, the manager Chris Nicholl had me in, cleaning the boots, cleaning the dressing room, hoovering up, cleaning the toilets, back down to earth.
I love how you say lucky to score a hat-trick. What luck? You just got 3 goals.
Well, you always, in whatever work of life, you need a little bit of luck. But I wasn't the best technically at that age,
right.
But what I was the best at was working hard and being on time and giving everything, and that's why I got to where I did. Is that I was determined, I was hungry, and I worked my arse off to get where I got to. Whereas some players might have been happy with what they achieved, then I wanted to get better and better and better. And I wasn't the best at 17, 18, 19, but what I lacked in a touch or heading or shooting or whatever, then I was determined to work hard to make myself. And I remember Dave Merrington, my youth coach at Southampton, saying to me, throughout your career you're going to hear someone say to you, you've got to work on your left foot. And he used to say to me, you make sure your right foot's unstoppable. So when they're trying to put you onto your left foot, still go on your right and make your right foot deadly. And I always remember that, and I worked a little bit more to make my right foot as it was, and I thought it was great advice.
Is that some of the best advice you've had, do you think?
Certainly in my younger days at Southampton, I was able to take everything in and listen, but the most important thing is hard work and graft and wanting to do it, wanting to get up when it's pissing down the rain in the morning, or wanting to stay behind when everyone's gone home, and that's probably how I was able to advance a little bit more than others, because I was prepared to work hard and go the extra mile. It's
funny because the whole time I was thinking, how would that feel as a young kid to be a 17-year-old making your debut for a team like Southampton? Do you remember what that was like? That feeling of being told?
Well, I didn't. I was in the squad, and I didn't find out I was playing until midday on the Saturday. Danny Wallace at the time, who was at Southampton, failed a fitness test Saturday morning, and then Chris Nicholl came to me at 11:30, 12 o'clock and said, "You're in, you're playing." And of course, my parents didn't have time to get from Newcastle to Southampton. So I was basically on my own. I remember going to the hotel having pre-match meal, and my first pre-match meal was fillet steak. The guy came along, "What do you want?" And I said, "A fillet steak," and they all looked at me. The only reason I said it was because I never had it before anyway. I couldn't afford it.
Love it.
So yeah, that was my first ever pre-match meal, because it's too expensive to buy out at a restaurant. I just thought if the club's paying for it, I'm going to have it from a pre-match. So I had fillet steak. Yeah,
bangs a hat-trick and fillet steak.
Exactly. Yeah, fillet steak every round.
And Arsenal were the defending champions that season as well.
Arsenal were a decent team then. Yeah,
1-0 to Arsenal.
It was a great day. I mean, to score a hat-trick, I made it hard for myself in one way, because everyone expected that week in, week out, and I never scored again after that game that season.
Wow.
I went. That was April, so I went all the way till to the middle or back end of May and never scored another goal.
Did you feel the pressure after that?
Yeah, I did. I felt it was difficult. Because everyone was looking at me. Everyone knew who I was. Albeit Southampton's a relatively small area when you look at the football club, but it was difficult, and found the next season tough as well. Didn't score a lot of goals then.
The same thing happened to Harry Kane a little bit. Like he sort of didn't hit the ground running straight away.
Well, he's had to do it the hard way. I think that's one of the things that I like about him, is that he's had nothing on a plate. Nothing's been given to him easy. He has had to work for everything. He's had to go out on loan. He hasn't said, there you are, there's your first team, you're going to play every single week. He's had to go and graft and work, and it didn't work for him at the beginning. In fact, it's only just worked for him the last, 3 and a half years now. So, but the success he's having now deserves it, because he's had to go out and graft on loan.
That's interesting, because actually it's Pochettino that's given him that opportunity. Absolutely, Pochettino doesn't loan out young players that he thinks have promise. Did you have anyone like that who had a particular faith in you?
Well, then after the season after that was the season that I had with Southampton. 91-92 was the first season that I was a regular goal scorer. I got into the 20s for Southampton. I was playing England under 21s, and Ray Harford, who was the coach at the time at Blackburn, was the England under 21 coach and manager. So he knew who I was, what I was about, and then that's when Blackburn came in for me in that summer of 1992, just after I made my debut. I made my debut for England February 92, and then left that summer.
You had other offers?
Yeah, I had a few offers. I got a call from Kenny Dalglish at Blackburn, and he was Jack Walker, Ray Harford under 21s, and of course Kenny. I went to meet them, and they were brilliant. Kenny, they had great plans, and Jack was a very wealthy guy, very successful businessman. He was the owner of Blackburn, and I just thought with Kenny, with Ray, and with Jack that it was going to be pretty powerful at Blackburn. And I went to meet them on the Monday or Tuesday, and they told me everything I wanted to hear, and I said, give me 3 or 4 days, I'll give you an answer by the end of the week. And then I got a call from a representative of Manchester United saying that we're interested in you. I said, well, I've promised to give Blackburn an answer by the end of the week. I'd love to come and talk to you. And they said, well, because I think they were PLC, they had to go and borrow the money. Right. And I said, well, if you want me that much, then you'll get the money somehow, and then you'll make a decision on me. And I never heard anything back from them, so I gave the answer to Blackburn a yes, and then I went to sign.
That was a British record as well, wasn't it?
British record transfer fee. Yeah, I think it was 3.6 million. I think something like that. Yeah.
Wow. How did that feel, having so much? Because that is the first point of your life, I guess, where you've heard that kind of figures involving you. Yeah. And now the pressure's really on. And
also knowing that it's Kenny Dalglish that said spend 3.6 million on it, because we know Kenny Dalglish now as an elder statesman of the game. Sorry, you're standing on my mic and it's actually pulling me.
Sorry, dude.
So we know Kenny Dalglish as an elder statesman of the game now, and you know we've seen his second time at Liverpool. This generation will have seen that, but at that time, that was Kenny Dalglish, best player in the world at one point. Yeah. One of the best managers in the world, having played champagne football, and he's coming to you, having managed Ian Rush, some of the best strikers of all time, saying, "You're mine."
I loved it. I thought, wow, if someone's stupid enough to pay that amount of money for me, then that's their problem. I enjoyed it. I mean, I hear people talk about the pressure of the world's most expensive fee or Britain's most expensive player, but I loved it. I thought, if someone's prepared to pay that money for me. Little old Al from Newcastle who just works hard and tries hard and scores the odd.
That's faith, isn't it? That's the ultimate faith, because it's putting your money where your mouth is.
Brilliant. And then no, it was. I enjoyed that pressure. Is it not really pressure? Is it? It's going back to being paid for something you love doing.
I guess it's how you see it, isn't it? Like, because some people would see that as intense pressure. Other people,
pressure's for tyres, isn't it? That's all. That's what I used to see. And then again, the same thing happened at when I was leaving Blackburn. Then the world's most expensive player, going for 15 million quid. I just thought, wow, I'm the world's most expensive footballer. I used to kick a ball around in Park Avenue in Gosforth. Yeah. Brilliant.
The thing is, in Blackburn, you hit the ground running, you're smashing them in, but you got your first big injury in Blackburn. What people do forget when they compare you to Wayne Rooney is, I often remind people, Wayne Rooney started at 16 in the Premier League, you like 21, and you had like 3 major injuries. Yeah. What was it like coming back from that? ACL?
Well, I was devastated because I had such a great start to life at Blackburn. I mean, I was scoring goals for fun. I think I had 22 goals. I signed in the middle of August, and then I did my cruciate ACL on Boxing Day. I had 22 goals from August to Boxing Day, and then that's it, bang. I'm out for the next 7 or 8 months. Torn cruciate ligament. I tried to. First of all, they diagnosed it it was a cartilage problem, and it wasn't too serious. I tried to come back, and I came back in a game for 20 minutes, and my knee collapsed, and then that was it.
Wow.
I always remember the day because I went down with the physio at the time, Paul Ferris, and the two of us, and I had the operation on for February the 14th, Valentine's Day, and me and my mate, the physio, Paul Ferris, are in this hotel
spending
Valentine's Day together. Yeah, and I'm going in for operation the next day, and I said I've got to have a couple of beers before I go in for operation. So we're sat together in a bar, and that's why I always remember that day. And then from February, I was out for about 7 months. So It was tough. It was really tough because, as I said, things were great. But I had a great medical team. The surgeon was great. Guy down in Cambridge called Dr. David Dandy. And I remember because they were struggling to find out what the injury was because it had been 4 or 5 weeks to get the diagnosis, and they searched this surgeon. And I remember walking in and barely, my trousers had hardly hit the ground, and he sort of said, "You've ruptured your ACL, you're going to be out for 6 to 7 months. Don't worry, you'll be as good as new by the time we get you back. It'll be a successful operation." And I was meant to be in hospital for 2 days, and then just as I was about to leave the hospital in Cambridge after the operation, I felt terrible. I got an infection in my leg, so I was in hospital for 2 weeks. So it wasn't the easy start of rehabilitation, but I got there, worked hard. And then the question was he going to be as good as he was before the injury? And then the more people asked, then it was like, okay, great, keep asking. And then that sort of spurred me on to do that. And I was young enough also I didn't really lose any pace because of that injury. It was only in the latter stages that I was with a serious injury that I began to lose a yard of pace. But after that, I felt great, and it was. Kenny was brilliant at that time because I was itching to get back in the team, and I thought I was ready come the end of August, but he kept putting me back and put me on his sub for 10 minutes, for half an hour, and then my first goal back was ironically at St James's Park when I came on as a sub for Blackburn against Newcastle, and then scored. I got hammered off all my mates because they were in the Gallagher end.
You can pick them out when you're down there.
I could see them all. And that was it. I was back to scoring goals again, and it was fine. And I've never had a problem with that knee to this day.
So that Blackburn team, or people nowadays think of Leicester as the ultimate underdogs, but that Blackburn team at the time was the ultimate underdogs of that era.
They're like Moneyball.
And you had like real characters, like Colin Hendry, and like he's iconic.
We had a brilliant team spirit in that squad. Tim Sherwood, Colin Hendry, Tim Flowers, David Batty, Wilcox, Ripley. It was a system designed for a centre forward to score goals. Two great wingers in Ripley and Wilcox, and all that they were ever told to do was get balls into the box, and that was just music to my ears. And it was a great system to play in, and it was just designed to score goals. And for Blackburn to come in to the Premier League like they did, and take on the big boys of Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, all these, and beat them to the Premier League. And the difference between Blackburn and Leicester is that everyone knew we were coming. Blackburn, we'd spent money, but like Man United, like Liverpool, like all the bigger clubs, they all spend money to get where they and they're not as criticised as much as Blackburn were then. And I said, well, Blackburn bought the title. Well, who doesn't? And the difference between Leicester and Blackburn, I think, was everyone knew we were coming. No one saw Leicester coming at all. Leicester just got on a roll at the beginning of the season, and it was like a snowball effect. No one could stop them. And once they started, it was just incredible. So I think that was the difference. But for clubs wise, the stature and probably the same size, and it was a miracle as well.
And obviously you had Kenny Dalglish, which means a lot of people were looking at you because he was a very successful
Kenny
manager.
had always been successful at Liverpool as manager. I think he'd done the double as manager at Liverpool, and he was brilliant. He was a great guy, still is to this day.
What kind of manager was he? Because they say some are tactical, some are man managers.
He never did, or he very rarely did any coaching. He was a manager. He had Ray Harford to do all of his coaching, and Ray was brilliant at coaching. He was a genius at that. But then, of course, we won the league, and then Kenny left. Kenny went into the director of football role, and it was that sort of changed things at Blackburn, because then Ray Harford took over Kenny. And the big mistake that Ray made is that we didn't sign any players when we won the league. He thought it was, with him being as honest as he is, he thought he would give that team the chance to do that all again. Right. Whereas the mistake, what you have to do is you have to sign, you have to get bigger and better. And
didn't Zidane come out of the training ground or something?
There was talk of Zidane and Christophe Dugarry coming and signing for Blackburn, but I'm not even sure he got as far as the training ground, to be honest. He might have got into Blackburn and turned around. But we got it was a disappointing season, and because of that was one of the reasons that we didn't sign anyone. I think we finished 5th or 6th or something like that. Then that was the time for me to think about moving, because other clubs were starting to circulate and come in from.
What was it like to finally win the Premier League title, though?
Well, we nearly threw it away, didn't we?
Close at the end there.
And we were sat at the top of the league, and United were chasing us, and Fergie was putting the pressure on us as he always used to do. And then we went to Anfield.
They needed to win.
Man United needed to win at West Ham, and I think we needed just a point to win the league. And of course, I think we went 1-0 up. I scored, and then we were shitting ourselves, basically. We were really nervous, and you could tell. Despite going 1-0 up, Liverpool got one back, and then they scored to go 2-1 up. And I'm thinking,
Tim Flowers, I've seen an interview with him. I thought as soon as it went 1-1, we'd done it. We're finished.
Yeah. But you're looking around, because it's a real weird atmosphere, because we're in Anfield, and even the Liverpool players don't want Man United to win the league, and they know if they beat us, they're giving a great chance to Man United, who are at West Ham, to win the league. But and then all of a sudden we just see all the Blackburn fans go mad, and I see Kenny and Ray hugging on the touchline, and I thought, thank God for that. We've won it. United haven't beaten West Ham, and the title was ours. So we had a hell of a few days. I know that.
You were quite I've heard a lot of interesting stories about you as a squad. Quite mischievous, maybe is the way to put it. I've heard a hammer story on the coach. There was a hammer on the coach.
That was, I don't know, that was ridiculous. I wasn't part of that. I was on the table beforehand.
Of course not. Yeah.
We had it was David Batty, Tim Sherwood, Mike Newell. I think it was Tim Flowers with the other one. The little hammers to break the windows in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Well, it was someone's bright idea at the back of the bus to tap the window, but every player had to tap it a little bit harder. I know, childish, stupid. And then of course we're going along the motorway one day on the way to a game, and it's getting harder and harder, and I'm looking back at the guys, and then all of a sudden of course the window smashes. and to this day I think the lads, well I know the lads, what they said to Kenny, they're all as if they're shocked. Goodness me, what happened there? It was like a rock must have hit the window or something. And
bloody football hooligans.
Quickly put the hammer back into where it was, and Kenny knew nothing. Kenny thought it was a chip and it had cracked, and we were just going along the motorway nicely. Stupid, I know.
What was that? That was quite a dressing room to be a part of, though, wasn't it?
It was great. Yeah, we had. That's what sort of got us through in the end, was the team spirit. I mean, when you can't compare some of the players that we had in our team to the likes at Man United or Chelsea or wherever, then it was an incredible achievement, and that's what got us through in the end: team spirit and hard work.
So then you end up going back to Newcastle. That was after Euro 96. Now for me, I sort of gotten into football about a year before Euro 96, so I was like, hey, this being a Newcastle fan's pretty good. And then Euro 96, I'm like, he's my favourite player. And he's from Newcastle. We're signing him. Fantastic. What was it like being a part of Euro 96? Because that, for me, was the best England team I've ever seen. Yeah,
it was brilliant to be part of. But it was difficult in a way leading up to it, because although I was scoring goals for fun still for Blackburn, I hadn't scored for England for nearly 2 years, I think it was. I think it was about 12 games. And so there were so many calls for me to be left out of that team Euro 96.
And other strikers were doing well, like Les Ferdinand and Robbie Fowler,
Collymore, Matt Letizia, David Hurst, Andy Cole, Chris Sutton. So you had all these guys who were scoring goals, who were putting pressure on me, and I hadn't scored for England. But what happened was that we went on the infamous trip to China and Hong Kong,
Is that the one in the newspaper where I think there's like Gaza on the front of the paper?
With the ripped shirts
He looked mental.
I was in there, but I was too clever because I seen people taking pictures and I sloped off around the back. Terry Venables, before we went to China and Hong Kong, we had to do 3 games pre-Euro 96 friendly games. And he said to me, whatever happens in between now and the tournament starting, you will be my number 1 centre forward. You will start the first game. And I thought, wow, for the manager to have that much faith in me and put that much trust in me, I've got to repay this guy. And he said, once you start, then the rest is up to you. And then we did what we did in Hong Kong and China with the dentist chair and everything else, and we got hammered, front pages, back pages, and deservedly so. We had to perform.
Whose idea was that? Was there anyone who was the instigator?
The dentist chair.
But just going out and getting that.
Yeah, it was a team thing. As that we all said when we were out there, we had a curfew. I think it was about midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and everyone sort of looked at each other and thought, well, if one goes back, we all have to go. If we all stay, then the manager can't really do anything. So it was that sort of mentality, and yeah, we let the manager down and gambled a bit, and the gamble backfired. And of course, the ripped shirts were all over the front pages of the newspapers, and it was madness. And then that sort of pulled us together as a squad because we got battered, and rightly so. But we stuck together, we gelled as a team.
It's like siege mentality.
It was, yeah.
When he says they got battered, he means in the press. Sorry, I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, the press were hammering us, and rightly so. And that sort of helped us in a way because we went into the first game. It wasn't a great result. Luckily, I scored in the first game, Switzerland. We got a draw, and then it was just gathering momentum, great atmosphere. Then we beat Scotland 2-0.
It was one of those
famous goal, obviously.
That tournament though, like football's coming home, and
it was great.
The fact that Euro 96 is at Wembley and all that, it was. I don't know. I don't think any tournament's ever felt the same since then.
We weren't aware of the atmosphere really because we were locked away in the hotel, in our hotel in Burnham Beaches it was, and it wasn't until one afternoon where we had the afternoon off, and Terry Venables said to us, just go out for a walk out of the hotel. And we went out of the hotel and walked into little Burnham, and it was just madness. This little village, there was thousands of people out there, and we couldn't go anywhere. And we thought, wow, the country's kicking off here. It's brilliant. And then of course that's when we got a real feel for that there's something special going on here in '96. And then that Holland game, when that was probably the best atmosphere that I've ever played in. And to beat Holland 4 was an incredible game. I got 2, Teddy got 2 I think as well, and it was just incredible. It was brilliant.
When I look back at that team, I think what's different from that team to a lot of other England teams was there were so many leaders.
Yeah.
And it felt like you could really rely on so many of these blokes to come in and put a decent performance in and not be afraid to tell someone what's going wrong and what they should be doing.
Yeah, I think that when you look at the England team now to the England team then in '96, I think that's probably the big difference, or one of the big differences, is that there's so many captains in that '96 team. Myself, Teddy, Tony Adams, Gareth Southgate, David Seaman, Paul Ince, Gary Neville. And I've probably forgot 2 or 3 others.
There was a lot of people who would stand up.
Quite young at that stage.
All those guys were pretty, and David Platt was another one.
Seaman was like a seasoned pro as well.
Yeah, that's right. So there was a lot of leaders in that team, a lot of captains for their teams also. I
mean, David Beckham isn't getting made captain in that side. Like let's be honest. Do you know what I mean?
Great hair.
It was a great team spirit. It was great. It was a great month. It was just incredible. Yeah, and of course, but you know what happened? Penalties and.
One of those things. You got the golden boot though. So
I got the golden boot. I remember because we got knocked out, obviously in the semi-final against Germany, and Germany were in the final. And I think it was, I can't remember the centre. I'm not sure it was Klinsmann or not, but I was sat at home watching the final, thinking. Because if their centre forward got 2 goals, he would have beaten me to the golden boot. So I'm thinking, I don't care if you win, just don't get 2 goals. Let me get the golden boot. But thankfully, it was I got it. Yes, after not scoring for 2 years and 12 games, and then to end up tournament's top scorer was pretty special.
Because you're still heroes in many ways. I know, but it was because of the tragedy of the whole situation. Exactly.
Winning. And for me, it was that Gaza goal against Scotland. I, when I think of that tournament, I think of you getting the golden boot and that goal, and obviously the celebration. What was it like playing with Gaza? Because you're both from up north, and
he was a genius as a player, brilliant. But God, he was mad. He was an absolute fruitcake and great fun. I mean, A month was enough with him for the guys that didn't have to,
He's full on,
to
is he?
spend their
Locked in a hotel as well, right?
Yeah, I know, locked in a hotel. A month was definitely enough, because of the practical jokes. You used to go into your... You used to wake up in the morning and you put your pants on, you had DP in your pants, and it was like you'd been in your room and sneaked in your room before and trashed your room, and it was just... It was great, good fun at the time, but a month was definitely enough. Spending a month with Gazza.
Is there a more talented player from England?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. He was just brilliant what he could do with the football. He was brilliant, and of course he's one of the guys that has suffered really from not having the buzz of football, to going to training, to matches and what have you. And it's a shame to see him in the way he is at times. Because
some people, I guess, just aren't cut out to be for the limelight. Like, you can be given all this natural talent, but mentally you might not be prepared for everything's going to come with it. You did an interview with him recently, which I thought was really great. The questions, and he seemed a better version of himself than he has been in the last few years.
But he still has his ups and downs. He has his good days. He has his bad days, obviously. But he's genuine, and he would give you, and that's been part of his problem over the years, is that he'd give you his last penny. He'd rather someone else have it than him, and that has been an issue for him over the years. But because you're a footballer, because you have so much money, you're expected to handle everything. Well, sometimes footballers are normal as well, and that is an area where I think football can improve, because a lot of footballers, and I mean a lot of footballers, come from a background where the parents have had no money, they've been brought up on council estates, and they've had nothing else but football. Similar to myself, born in a council house, raised in a council house, not a great area, and then all of a sudden, because you're good at football at 16 or 17 and you get to 21, you should be able to talk in front of millions. You should be able to be eloquent in front of a camera. If you're single, then you can't do anything wrong. I mean, come on,
I'm amazed it's not worse. I mean, if I was a footballer, the press would have a field day on me.
Well, yeah,
I swear to God, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping I don't get too much more popular, to be honest. Can we just keep it
about...
Just, it's quite nice where it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But that must... what I find quite interesting about you is people don't know a lot about you as a person. We said this earlier.
Good.
But obviously... Yeah, exactly. So thanks for coming on. But you do build up very close relationships with people behind the scenes, because everyone that you speak to, I've told a number of people who were, you're getting Alan Shearer, he's a great guy, really great guy. You must have built up great bonds with people like Gazza and your teammates behind the scenes, because obviously you're not private with them, you're actually quite close with those guys. What was that like, having that sort of brotherhood with someone like that?
What happened is that I went to when I went to Blackburn, Kenny Dalglish had the same sort of personality as that. Everyone told me what a great guy he was, but you'd see this guy on the TV or listening to him on radio deadpan, and he wouldn't give anything away. So I spent 4 years with Kenny, so I blame all that. You learned it. No one likes to laugh and a joke more than I do. No one likes a pint more than I do, going out with your mates, going away to play golf on golfing trips with the lads.
You went out on the piss with Chris, was it Platt? David Platt.
In his mind, he's going, which time?
Which one?
I read your book, because I remember you released a book years ago. I mean, I bought everything that was coming, to be honest.
He's got a face with your plate with your face on.
He was someone you enjoyed a night out with, wasn't he?
Well, he was when I went.
It was abroad. I think it was in like Italy or somewhere. Story.
He always contacts were in Italy. He knew where he could take us, and no one would find out where we were in a bar and what have you. But one of my first England trips was that we used to room together when we went away with England then. So in '92 I was sort of put in a sharing a room with David Platt. So that's how we sort of got to know each other, and of course he had a great career both in England and in Italy.
And what was that like being with Platt? Were you happy to be paired with him, or did you sort of want to be paired? Who did you want to be paired with?
No, I was fine. No, we got on fine. It was good. He obviously captained England also. We also had shared the same agent, who basically we were taught not to say anything. We weren't allowed to give our phone numbers, our emails, and kept everything very, very private. So not to say anything to the press. So that's probably one of the reasons also.
Okay.
So after Euro 96, the bidding war begins. Everyone wants Alan Shearer. Somehow he ends up in Newcastle, luckily. One of the men who made that happen was Freddie Shepherd, who sadly just passed away. And, he also was at your statue unveiling, and it's been a great friend over the years. Can you tell us what he was like?
He was brilliant. Great guy, honest, hard-working, from Newcastle. Successful, not only as the chairman of Newcastle United, but his other businesses also. He just loved the era. He loved the football club, and his passion and hunger for it to for everyone to look at Newcastle and love Newcastle and feel a part of Newcastle, and that's what he wanted. That was when I first met him, when I was meeting the Newcastle top brass to have discussions of whether to come back home or go elsewhere or stay at Blackburn.
It felt like there was ambition when he was at the charge, as opposed to now where it just feels like, God, I mean, let's just hope we don't get relegated. With him, it really felt like, even if it wasn't in his power to make us win everything, he really wanted to try. Well,
I think the difference is he loved the football club, and that you can't say that at the moment. And there was always a marquee signing, a big signing most summers that they put their neck on the line to give the manager the player that he wanted, and it wasn't for the want of trying that Newcastle didn't win a trophy when he was the chairman. But he used him and a few others used all of their persuasive powers to get me back to Newcastle, because it was such a big decision. I mean, at times I was staying at Blackburn, at times I was going to Man United, and then I got a call off Kevin Keegan to say, can I have another half an hour with you 2 or 3 days later? He said, I'm coming down to Manchester, believe it or not, can I have another half an hour with you? And I said yes, because I was in the stage where I was thinking, give me a few days, I have to think about it. And then I went and met him, and then I left my home to go and meet Kevin in Manchester, and I said, that's it, I'm signing for Newcastle. And
what was it that he said in that half hour?
It was just, I thought, you know what, it was everything that I wanted to play for Newcastle. I wanted to wear the number 9 shirt, I wanted to score goals, it was my dream. And I thought, what am I waiting for? This is all, they're prepared to break the bank, it's a world record fee.
And the guy who you idolised is saying, join me.
No, that's right, absolutely, And so I left my home to go and meet Kevin, and I never ever went back to that house. I got a taxi.
Ditched.
I got my missus to pack me a bag, send it in a taxi to Manchester Airport, got on a flight to the Far East, where Newcastle were in pre-season, and then I signed there and then, and I never went back home, flew back into Newcastle, did the press conference, so I left all the work of packing the house up and everything to the family.
What happened with Manchester United's calls at that point? Because obviously that is a very difficult name to bat away, Sir Alex, at Manchester United at that point, especially the team they had.
No, they had a great team, and I was pretty much guaranteed trophies. It was just Newcastle. It was my love for the football club. I stood on the terraces as a kid on the Gallagher end cheering Keegan on, and I wanted people to do that to me, and me going home for that world record fee. And on the day that I went home and signed that, we came back from the Far East, and they announced that I was going to sign on that particular day and have an open day. I don't know how many were there, 15, 16, 17,000, something like that. It was pouring rain. It was a midweek day, and I looked out and I walked out and I just saw all these kids and all that, thinking, Jesus, how come you're not at school? Why aren't you working? There was thousands there.
I mean,
you were skiving as well, were you?
There was a good reason for a day off, though.
I'm feeling a bit sick today, man. Were you? Were you say you remember when he signed for for Newcastle United?
I remember where I was. I was at the Silverlink, and I had the Newcastle top on, and I walked past some person who was working in a sofa shop, or I was with me, Nana and Granda, and they went, "Have you heard Alan Shearer signing?" And I was like, I'm going to get a number 9 shirt right now.
It was like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. Have you heard? They're giving away.
In Man United, long term, you would have gotten the trophies, but you would have been a great player in a long line of great players, and you would never have been loved. I mean, Wayne Rooney's that top goal scorer. Man United don't exactly love him. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
Well,
it's not love.
It's not coming from Newcastle.
It's different.
It's not being like that.
No, that's right, and it's very. If you're not from a particular area. I mean, can try and say, well, if you're from Liverpool, it would have probably been your dream to have played for Liverpool.
Yeah.
Well, I was from Newcastle, and it was my club. It was my dream to play for them, and to have the goal scoring record, to beat Jackie Milburn, to have what I have up in Newcastle, to have played there for 10 years was it was the best decision.
What was Kevin Keegan like? Because he's a bit of a figure of fun in modern day football.
Well, he left after 3 or 4 months, didn't he? 'Cause,
that baffled me. Like.
Yeah, I still don't know the real reason, to be honest.
Apparently there was some sort of business thing going on in the background
as well. Board, or for whatever reason, finances or whatever. So I signed in the August, and then Kevin left round about the Christmas time after that.
Yeah.
And Kenny Dalglish, ironically, comes back. Your old friend. I was there for Kenny's first game in charge, actually, and what really surprised me about his era in Newcastle is he let go Ferdinand, Ginola, and brought in Des Hamilton and Stefan Givosh, and
tell me about it.
It was it did seem to be a bit of a I don't want to succeed with Keegan's players. I want my own players in there, which that makes sense to a degree.
I thought it was a great appointment at the time, because obviously with his success he had at Liverpool, his success he had at Blackburn, and I thought he was tailor-made coming into a big club like Newcastle. But no, for whatever reason it didn't work out. We should never have sold Les. We had one season together, me and Les, and we got 49 goals, I think, between us. I missed 2 months through injury. He missed 3 months.
Imagine that had been a fully fit season, you'd been looking at 70
well,
goals.
They told him that they no longer wanted him. We were going to sell him to Tottenham, and then I went to play in the pre-season game with Newcastle in a tournament at Everton at Goodison Park, and broke my ankle, snapped my ankle, done my ligaments, ruptured, whatever, displaced the joint. So all of a sudden they've told Les he's free to go. I've ruptured my ankle and going to be out for 6 or 7 months, but they've gone back to Les and said, look, this is what's happened to Alan, we've made a mistake, we don't want you now to leave for Tottenham, can you reverse your decision? And to Les's credit, he said, no, you've told me I'm not wanted. So
you've got to respect that, to be fair to the man. And, he seems like a really nice bloke, Les. I know you did the Glenfell tournament.
I did that with Les, and then caddied for him last week at the British Masters in the Pro-Am. He's normally very good, but he's hopeless last week.
Right. Is that because you were his caddy?
Probably.
Yeah.
Pressure's on him now.
Yeah. You're just in the background going, don't miss this one, Les.
Great lad he is.
So what was it like building up a relationship with him? Because a lot of people, obviously recently we've seen Neymar step out of Messi's shadow and then argue with Cavani when he got to PSG. What was it like building relationships as a striker back then? Because it was always two up top pretty much.
Well, you had Tino Asprilla
exactly,
as well.
In the vast majority of teams, certainly up until 29-30, that it was always two up front, and that was the system that everyone sort of played, whether it was me and Chris Sutton, me and Mike Newell, me and Matt Le Tissier at Southampton, or myself and Les at Newcastle, or Beardsley or Sprayer or Craig Bellamy, whoever it might have been. So no, it's fine. It's that my job was to score goals, and the good thing about being a centre forward is you can have an absolute stinker for 89 minutes and score the winning goal and be man of the match. Whereas if you're a defender and you give a mistake away and it leads to a goal, you've had a nightmare. And that's the good thing about being a centre forward. But it's also the hardest job, is putting the ball in the back of the net, which is why the strikers go for big dough and why they get paid the most, and which is why every team in the bottom half, if they had a guy that could put the ball in the back of the net and get 15 or 20 goals, then they
changes the whole season.
5 or 6 places up the league. And there's not many around nowadays.
So Kenny takes us from second in the league to 13th, and he gets moved out. Ruud Gullit gets moved in, and that was someone who you didn't really see eye to eye with.
Was that his first managerial job?
He done Chelsea.
He done Chelsea, so he was. So
he came and everyone got the wigs, and that it was fun for a while until
he did a photo shoot with tulips in his pocket, which was really weird at the time. So when he came in, was it an instant dislike, or was it
we disliked each other from the first minute we met each other.
Was it because you beat Holland, do you think?
I don't know. I just you just get a feeling when he walked in and he sort of introduced to each other, and hi lovely boy, he used to call me, and I just thought we're not going to get on it.
Lovely boy,
yeah.
No one's ever called me that before.
No. Did you think that was a little unusual?
No, it was that was
condescending.
It was you just got the feeling as that, and he just, and then within within a week or two, he just sort of dismissed all the senior players.
Yeah.
Me, Rob, Stuart Pearce, John Barnes, Ian Rush, Warren Barton, and all those guys were just sort of put to one side. It was like, it was as if he didn't want any senior players challenging him, taking him on. He didn't want a
and you were a
character in the dressing room.
for him, ego-wise, because if he's trying to assert his dominance, and
Are you trying to say I've got an ego?
No, I'm saying you're the god of the club, mate. You know what I mean?
That is a problem, isn't it?
No, like you've got someone who's a goal scorer. The fans love him. If you want to drop him or whatever, or you want to create this is my club type situation, then even if you are good enough, that is going to prove a problem for someone like Hobbit.
Yeah, it's it was a difficult situation because I knew that he wanted me out of the football club and I didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
But I would have had to have left if he had stayed. But he sort of gambled. He put all his eggs into one basket, didn't he? And sort of left me out of the biggest game of the season, Sunderland, because I was suspended for the game beforehand. They were beaten at home. Mm-hmm. And then I think he kept the same team against Sunderland in the midweek.
He left you and Duncan Ferguson out together.
Yeah, but that's fine. As a manager, you're entitled to leave whoever you want out. You pick the team that you think is going to win the game. But I think there's also a way of doing it. So to walk into the dressing room at 6:30 and see your name on the board and you're not playing, I don't think is the correct way.
You could have had a word or said, look mate,
there's a way to leave someone out, particularly a senior professional, but I think it's exactly the same whether you're a young kid or whether you're an old professional. There's a way of telling someone they're not playing, not to walk into a dressing room and find out on the team sheet, on the board in front of everyone. And that's how
it's quite a school teacher
that's how myself and Big Dunk found out we were left out. But it was even worse after that because the result 2-1, he put Big Dunk on before me, and then put me on for the last sort of 15 or 20 minutes, and then we finished the game obviously angry, got home, watched Match of the Day, and then of course it was mine and Duncan's fault for that we'd been beaten according to Ruud on TV.
Jesus.
So I thought that was it. That was the final nail, if you like, to say, well, I've got to do something about it here. So I went in bright and early, got the kids up an hour early than they should have been to school, dropped them off at 7:45, which is unheard of. The doors weren't even open. I left them out in the
love you.
There you go. I've got your packed lunches. I've got to get to the training ground, kids. I'm sorry, I've got to leave you here.
Yeah.
And so I dropped the kids in and go racing down the motorway in the car and pull into the training ground, and luckily I see his car that's in there, so I go bursting into the office and I look in, and there Big Dunk's already beat me to it. He sat in there tearing strips off the wall beforehand. So
and he wasn't someone to argue with.
No, he wasn't.
Knocked a couple of burglars out once or something.
You definitely wouldn't want to burgle Big Dunk's house, that's for sure.
Not again anyway.
No.
You used to have a great, very short-lived but a great partnership.
Yeah.
And like with Shearer and like Duncan Ferguson up front, you're feeling like, oh, no defence is going to look forward to this. Like
the only Ferguson that
I think he's beat Man United.
Yeah.
We beat Man United, but it was
you and scored
Ferguson.
a great goal. A volley, he scored a great goal.
That, like.
He was as hard as they come, Big Dunk. Yeah. If he said jump, you jump. He jumped high. Yeah.
He's a coach at Everton now.
Yeah, he is. He's coach at Everton. Very, very good lad though. But he was hard as nails. Yeah. So that was it, and then he resigned. Or was sacked, whatever. I'm not quite sure. And then
Bobby Robson.
The rest is
Sir Bobby Robson.
Sir Bobby, yeah. And then Sir Bobby came in. I mean, he saved my career in a black and white shirt. Definitely, probably saved my career because he got me smiling again. He got me enjoying football. Something simple he just said to me is, "Look, you're making it too easy for the centre halves. Everything's going towards." The halfway line rather than going the other way. You're not asking enough questions of the two centre halves. You've got to be horrible to play against again. You're too easy. It was something as simple as that. And then in his first home game against Sheffield Wednesday, we scored 8. I scored 5, and then that was it. I was back up and running again. So Bobby was a genius at man management. It's incredible. Whether you're a 17-year-old kid or whether you're a 35-year-old experienced professional, he was brilliant at getting the best and making you feel good, making you feel special, making you enjoy football. He was just incredible.
Even watching his interviews, and I think this goes for all football fans, whether Newcastle fan or not, you fell in love with him. Like, he just had such passion,
kind and warm,
and he come across such a nice person that he was like the granddad of English football.
No, he was. Yeah, and he'd achieved so much before that for him to come back to his northeast.
He did a bit like what you did,
and to manage his football club. You could see the passion and the love that he had for the football club. I mean, he took us from bottom of the Premier League into Champions League football in a very short space of time, and he used all his experience to do that.
Was that evident when you were talking to him? Because he discovered R9 Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, and he'd managed Barcelona and he took Ipswich to the UEFA Cup and all that. Could you tell of all that experience when you were talking football?
He told me the story that when I was leaving Blackburn, he'd rang Blackburn up whilst manager of Barcelona and said that we want to buy Alan Shearer.
Wow.
And Blackburn had told him in no uncertain terms that I wasn't for sale at all at any price and forget about it. He says, and then the next thing he knew, I was signing for Newcastle. But it didn't turn out too badly for him. So in not signing me, he signed Ronaldo. So it wasn't didn't work out too badly for him.
When Sir Bobby passed away, I noticed there was an interview with Kieran Dyer who'd just got the news, and he was really upset. Like he was like, I feel like my second dad sort of just passed away. Like I look up to him so much. Do you feel a lot of the Newcastle players would have felt the same way?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because that's the way he was with players. Whether, as I said, whether you're a kid or whether you're a 35-year-old, been around for years, he made you feel special. But he also made you feel as if how lucky you were to be a footballer. Because he'll go back to his background of where he was from, near Durham. The mines, etc., and so he was always constantly drumming that into you, and you just had huge respect for him. Huge respect.
I noticed a couple of stories about players who said, because he comes across such a nice man, but he had to have a bit of a nasty streak about him to be a boss. Like, he's still a manager at the end. You've got to still respect him and have that. And these young players need that sometimes. And
he was clever.
There was a few stories where he was like, "Do you know who I've managed? Figo, Ronaldo. You are an ant compared to
he definitely had that side to him if he needed to, and because of where he had been and who he'd managed before, when he shouted, then you had to listen. And he definitely had I know that there was players at times that let him down with fighting on the pitch or whatever, or disciplinary things that happened.
There was a lot of nights out apparently under his watch, because
there was definitely a lot of with the younger guys, nights out. Yeah, there's that. I mean, a young guy coming to Newcastle, single, a lot of money. There's a lot on offer, and I think a lot was taken by the younger boys. Yeah.
I heard a lot of stories about like Kieran Dyer, actually, as I just mentioned. Enjoyed the Baja Beach Club back in the day.
Yeah. You got some really good clubs in Newcastle, haven't you? It must be. Whenever you say a name of a club, I always think that sounds so exotic.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. You got some friends who you know very well.
They tell me they're great. I've not been in a club for years. God, not in Newcastle.
So you're on the come up under Bobby in the Champions League now, back where you belong, and we did pretty well. Went to Milan, got a couple of goals there.
That was a great night. In Milan, scoring 2 goals in the San Siro. The atmosphere. I mean, I don't know how many thousands of fans that were there with Newcastle, 12 or 15,000, whatever, behind that goal in the San Siro. It was a brilliant atmosphere and a great game to play in. I think we were the first team ever in Champions League history to lose the first 3 games but still qualify. I think we got the results in the remaining games to see us qualify. So
the one thing I loved about that team is it was a good mixture, because you had like leaders like yourself and Gary Speed and people like that, but you also had the young lads with pace like Dyer and Bellamy and Nobby Solano would whip a good ball in. Like, it had a bit of everything going forward.
No, it was good. It was a good team to play, and it was good fun. You still, if you're not having fun, then there's no point in being there. And that's sometimes when you look at it, is that sometimes, Billy, as you say, you're not having fun there, but you've got to enjoy it. I mean, that's what you're doing every single day of your life is football. So you have to enjoy it. You have to love it.
And that was what I found interesting. You said there was he made football fun for you again. He put a smile back on your face, and also made you face up against centre backs again.
Yeah.
What do you think you are like to play against?
hopefully I was. Well, I know I was horrible to play against, but I was taught to do. I was taught you don't get anywhere by being nice in football. Otherwise, you'll get walked on.
Yeah.
People will walk all over you. You've got big centre halves behind you, kicking you, pulling you, scratching you.
Are they talking to you as
saying
well?
whatever to you in your ear?
Okay.
So you have to look after yourself, definitely. And I always gave as good as I got. I was hard. Most of the times I was fair. But I was.
When you say you were fair, would Neil Lennon agree with that?
Oh, he deserved it. He was stupid for headbutting my foot, wasn't he? So,
Yeah.
Was that actually deliberate? Was it? Like, what did you say?
No, I wasn't. It was just meant. It was just kicked out. I didn't mean to kick him in the head. Obviously, I just kicked out but I didn't. And then sort of panicked when I knew he'd headbutted my foot.
Yeah. Still fair. And so there are people talk, because one of your Match of the Day compatriots, Ian Wright, always talks about how much he used to love chatting to people out on the pitch.
Yeah.
Michael Dubry tells great stories about Wrighty just really laying into
him and Schmeichel had a hell of a battle.
Well,
I used to love watching that. Like.
Well, I was just saying. I mean, it's funny, once you retire, you come across in the media. You work for different channels and different people, and then you come across all these players who you thought, God, I hate him. I don't like him. He's horrible to play against. And Peter Schmeichel was like that. We had some great battles like Wrighty did, but over the past 3 or 4 years, I've worked with Peter, and we get on great now. We're like best buddies now.
Yeah.
It's
because on the pitch there's a version of you, but it's not the normal you. It's that you're in a different state of mind. It's like going to you see boxers years later.
Yeah.
Tyson and Holyfield, best mates now. The one player who you did have a little bit of a body with was Roy Keane. And now you've actually, I think you did a little bit of punditry next to him.
I did, I think I did an FA Cup game a year or so ago.
Did you say anything to each other about
it? No, it was fine. We got on fine. We had a laugh and we had a joke. He was another one. Yeah, I mean, I had some great battles with him.
I really respected him as a player.
Once, didn't he? And at St James's Park.
Oh yeah, he swung for you.
When he got that red card, it was funny because when he walked off the pitch, and it was the last minute of the game, only a minute or two left. And he'd been given the red card, and he was waiting for me at the top of the tunnel at St James's, and of course we tried to get to each other, but we couldn't. It was like, hold me back, and don't hold me back, but we couldn't get to each other, so it would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Personally, I think you would have knocked him clean out.
Of course I would have.
I think Roy agrees. And so,
too busy chasing after his dog, man.
And then, so were you kind of go chat to people out on the pitch?
Only if they used to say bad things to me.
Okay.
Then I never went out with the intention of saying anything to any centre half at all.
Yeah.
It was only if, but again, as a centre forward, you always get the chance to have the last laugh.
Yeah.
You don't. The best way to say things is put the ball in the back of the net, and of course on the way back to the halfway line, then you can give them 2 barrels. So
were you quite protective as a player as well of younger players and sort of?
Yeah. No, I was brought up in that Southampton team where there was an old guy, Jimmy Case, who was the senior professional, who was experienced, hard as old boots. And he looked after us all as kids, and if anyone kicked us, he would go and have a word with them. So I sort of learned a lot from him in that way, as in trying to look after the youngsters.
Yeah.
So the one time it did really kick off in the Newcastle team, I remember in the Aston Villa game, Stevie Taylor had a fight with the ball, and Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer had a fight with each other, and the pictures are there, you grabbing Bowyer, like talking to him. Can you remember what you said to him, like after that and what was going through your mind?
Something in the dressing room, I don't know, it was something like, what the fuck are you two been doing? It was just, I couldn't. It's twice that's happened to me on a pitch. It happened to when I was at Blackburn. Graham Lasso and David Batty, we played Moscow away in the Champions League. They had a fight with each other on the pitch.
Graham Lasso
and David Batty, yeah. And then of course Kieran Dyer and Lee Bowyer had the one at Newcastle. But they were devastated in the dressing room. They knew they'd let everyone down. They knew that, more importantly, they'd let Sir Bobby down. I think that was the big thing that they felt guilty more than anything is, and that they obviously owed him an apology, and they did.
I remember watching that because I said, we've had it here. I think we were losing 3-1 or something, and I was walking. I'm just going to go down now, and I turned around as I'm walking down the stairs, and there's like a monitor up, and I turn on. the fight, I'm like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
It was mad.
It was mental, that game.
As a player as well, you must turn around to that and just be like, what is...
I know, yeah. I mean, you get angry on a pitch, obviously, because not everything goes your way. You get angry with the opposition, you get angry with your own players, but there's no way you can do that, especially in front of 52,000. It's like, and millions watching on TV.
Did you obviously
I've seen it happen plenty of times in training.
Really?
And in
a way, is it like good that they care? Like, because if someone's
I think they care
ready to fight, to me, I'd rather than be like that than just lackadaisical and not give them up.
No, that's right. It's you got 25 guys who are training together every day, 4 or 5 days a week, playing on a Saturday. You're not going to get everything go smoothly all the time. So it's quite a regular occurrence to see players fighting on the training ground.
I want to knock him out 3 times a week.
Right, sleep.
Or in the dressing room after a game. It's in fact, it's quite common. It certainly was when I was playing anyway.
A lot of egos as well.
Yeah. But yeah, it happens, and of course when it happens, is that it's such, people look at it as a big shock that there's a fight on the training ground, but it's life. It happens every single week up in training grounds up and down the country.
Yeah, there was one player who wrote about you in his book, Craig Bellamy, who you played under the Bobby Robson era. I'm not scared of him, big tough guy and all that. And apparently you text him back saying, "Don't come back to Newcastle, mate, if you know it's good for you."
I can't remember what I texted him. I got a text off him once. Yeah, I can't even remember what the text said. And then I pressed send, and I thought, what on earth are you doing? It's like.
He seemed to claim that you'd done an interview where you were passing the book, and that's what he said. Oh, same old Alan passing the book, and you went, "You want to have a look at yourself, mate," or something along those lines. And you said that you'd knock him out if you ever come back to Newcastle. Have you seen him since then?
I haven't seen him for a while, to be honest. No.
You've been in Newcastle quite a lot then.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
He walked past us once in McDonald's, and I remember thinking, Jesus, he is tiny.
He is tiny.
He's such a small man. He probably wouldn't have taken much.
We had it on the pitch. We were very good for each other, actually, because obviously in the latter stages of my career, I was starting to lose a bit of pace, and for what I lacked, he made up with.
Then he was crap at finishing, so
I took all the goals. So on the pitch, it was decent on the pitch. Yeah.
He annoys me a little bit, Craig Bellamy, to be honest with you, because he goes on TV and he goes, "Oh, Newcastle fans, they think that the club should be as big as Liverpool and Man United." I'm not watching.
Craig
what the hell are you on television for, mate? Are you for real? Talking absolute shit.
I think he enjoys that sort of
being a little worky ticket.
Being antagonistic. Yeah. But then obviously you were also, I think you were captain of England when Beckham went off. Kicking Simeone. Yeah. But that's another time where you probably turned around and thought, did you even know what happened at that point?
Not really. No, not on the pitch. It was '98 World Cup, wasn't it, against Argentina? I wasn't really aware of what had happened, and I was captain. But I think there was nothing really said in the dressing room after that. I think everyone was just numb and still in shock at losing it to the penalties. Look, we've all done things on a pitch that you think, I wish I hadn't have done that, or I should have done it differently. So it's very difficult to have a go at someone when, do you know what I mean? Because everyone's human, aren't they? Everyone makes mistakes now and again.
Do you remember his reaction to that? And were you, because obviously as captain,
he got hammered, didn't he?
I think that's the worst I've seen.
He says he sunk really, like he almost lost his career.
No, he showed great character coming back from that, because a lot of players would have folded with the treatment that was dished out to him after that. That
was when the press sort of showed their teeth at that point, because I
think the first time I remember press getting angry and managers and players getting stick, which was a lot, which was the Bobby Robson era, 1991ish, something like that, or 90. Bobby Robson got a lot of stick, and I just thought it started big time, and I think it was around about then that it started.
I went back and watched the documentary about that, because obviously I wasn't old enough to remember it, but because to me Bobby Robson was like this well-respected manager who nobody really would question, because he overcame all that. But I didn't realise they really tried to make him into a joke at that point.
Absolutely,
quite disrespectful really at that point, wasn't it? That's
when I can first starting or getting angry at managers and players was around about that time.
Did you ever think of leaving? My mental there was to think, well, I'd leave England. Did you ever think of just leaving England anyway in your career and going somewhere else?
I had opportunities, but I never. it was never a huge desire to go abroad.
Okay.
No, it was. I was always quite content. I had a chance to go to Italy.
Which team was it?
Bari, Sampdoria, at the time, but there was nothing big enough for me to say, yeah, I want you to go and follow that lead up, because I was always quite content in England.
Yeah. That's interesting as well, isn't it? Because a lot of people get that. Serie A was huge.
Yeah, it was.
You say Bari and Sampdoria now, they're not the same.
No, exactly.
Back then, they were
a big team. Yeah,
they're one of the biggest teams in Europe at that point.
Yeah, later in your career, obviously we had the Graham Souness era, and things just went downhill for Newcastle. You came back to try and save the day at the end, and unfortunately, I think the ship was already practically sunk by that point, and there was a lot of mentally weak characters in the dressing room.
That's being polite.
I mean, I really, to be honest, I think the second team that got relegated were actually worse than that team.
Yeah.
So that's saying something. But you did your best and obviously tried to save it at the end there. You weren't helped, but I think it was Joey Barton got sent off at Liverpool. And I remember you'd always been so perfect in your responses to questions, and that was the first time I thought, oh, he's really pissed off here. Like, this is...
Yeah, I was angry because Joey was injured for the first 4 games that I was there for. I was there for 8 games, so Joey was injured for the first 4. So I only had him for the last 4 games, and he had legs, and we had Kevin Nolan and Nicky Butt in the team who were great professionals, gave everything, but they couldn't get up and down the pitch. Joey could. So I'd said to him about going back to Liverpool and the issues that he'd had there. Would he be all right handling the atmosphere, because he's going to get hammered off the crowd? And he said, yeah, no problem, won't let you down. So we put him in, we started him, and we were getting beat 3-0, and to be honest, that was a great result. It should have been 10. They hit the post 5 or 6 times, and we're just about to take him off, and then in front of the cop, he scythes Xavi Alonso down, straight red card, suspended for the last 3 games of the season. So I had him for 60 minutes. When it was, he let me down, he let the club down, and then I just thought it was my time to say a few home truths, and I did in the dressing room. Told him what I thought, told him what everyone else was thinking and saying, and that was it. I never saw him again after that.
Really, he just didn't come back to the training?
No, I didn't want him back.
Okay.
What was it like being the manager over that period of time? Because it's a different kind of pressure, and you know, your whole career you've been able to affect things a lot more, and now you're having to live through these lads who aren't as good as what you were. And so many top pros have said it's hard to do that because you're having to deal with people who can't just do what you want to get out there and do.
No, I think what disappointed me most at Newcastle was a lot of the attitudes. I didn't get everything I felt I could have out of some players at Newcastle at that particular time. It was hard, it was disappointing. I worked my socks off for the 8 games, but it was also a learning curve, and a great learning curve, and I still had the hunger and the desire to go into management. I still thought I would have after that, and obviously I thought it was going to be at Newcastle, but for whatever reason it didn't work out. But even after that, I still thought I was going to do it. But then after time, the longer you're out, the more difficult it is to get back in. I started enjoying the media a little bit more, and I just thought, no, I'm going to knuckle down and get stuck into the media, and that's what I want to do, because it's a great life. Yeah.
That must be a bit easier. I mean, you've seen how managers age.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a tough. But I enjoy the responsibility. I mean, you've got to make so many decisions. What the stupid things like what do they wear, what do they eat, what time you got to meet. I mean, everything. You're basically a dad to 25 guys, all different ages, and you whatever anyone says, you have to treat them differently. You can't say, well, this is the group, it's black or white, you're all doing this, you're all doing that. Everyone has different needs, everyone has different personalities, so you got to treat guys slightly different to what you'd normally do to one guy. You got to do different to the other. So it was an eye-opener, but it was something I enjoyed.
Did you find yourself reaching back into memories of stuff that you'd had with Kenny and Kevin, or not Kevin for very long, but people like Bobby as well, and trying to work out what they would have done as managers?
Tried to, yeah, absolutely, yeah, and spoke to a couple of them also, just to try and get a little bit of feedback from them. But ultimately, it boils down to that is the players weren't good enough.
Yeah.
Attitudes weren't good enough, and there wasn't enough drive and hunger to keep Newcastle in the Premier League.
Did you think that was understood by everyone in the media? Because I remember that was when I was sort of first starting to do that football blogging and things like that, and I was probably one of the people that absolutely panned that team because they didn't come across as a great side. But do you think people saw everything that went on and rightly summarised it?
I don't think so. I think one thing that stands out from, and I knew that it would be difficult from the start, is that my very first day I was aware of issues, obviously.
Yeah.
What were going on inside the football club. I was aware that people were walking off training for no reason. I was aware that people were late for training. So what I did the first day was I put a fine system in, because my very first day there was a member of staff late. So I thought that was a warning sign. So I put a fine system in. The first time you're late, it was 10% of your wages. The second time you were late, it was 25%. And the third time you were late, it was 50%. But you had to get that passed by the Players Committee. And the Players Committee, as soon as the fine system hit the dressing room floor, the Players Committee came and knocked on my door and said, that's not acceptable, we don't want that. Right. And my answer was, well, don't be late.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm asking you to be in for training at 10 o'clock. You will start at 10:30, and I promise you, for the next 8 weeks, you'll be in the training ground for no longer than 1:30, and that's including lunch. It's not as if you're in London where you could get stuck in traffic. I'm asking you to be in training ground at 10 o'clock to start at 10:30, and I wasn't allowed to put the fine system in. The PFA wouldn't allow it, and the Players Committee wouldn't allow it. So then I thought, there's an issue here.
Yeah.
Because if players just don't be late. It's simple.
Yeah.
But I wasn't allowed to do it, so I knew it would be difficult from then onwards.
Yeah, it must be good though to know that you do have the phone number of someone as experienced as Kenny Dalglish.
It didn't do me any good, did it?
No, yeah, good point. But at least you still got the trust of those people. You still got people sort of backing you.
No, I think even now, I mean, even with Ruud Gullit, who I get on great with now, it's the same situation. I think right throughout my career, that I think any manager that I've played for, I could pick the phone up to them now and have a conversation with them or go for a pint with them, and I think that's important, and I think that says a lot about who I am and who they are also.
What was it like dealing with Mike Ashley in that time?
I only saw him twice. Once was after the Middlesbrough game when we beat Middlesbrough at home, and the other time was 2 days after we'd been relegated, to talk about what happened and to agree going forward that I was going to manage the football club. And then I shook hands and said, okay, see you later, I'll see you next week or whatever, and I haven't spoke or seen him since.
No doubt he loved the idea of the fine system.
Personally, well, yeah, any way to make money.
Yeah.
Personally,
50% you say, right?
What astounds me about Mike Ashley is someone who's made so much money and must have intelligence about him in order to do that, is how long he still hasn't grasped the concept of how football works even now. Like, I'm amazed as someone who, I just think I'm a regular bloke, like, you have to invest in the summer, you have to, give the manager the funds he needs, and like for him to make the same mistake this season, and whether Rafa manages to squeeze the season out and keep us up or not, like it'll be out of Rafa's ability and the players trying hard, and not through him helping them.
I think an issue is knowing the area and knowing the football club and understanding the football club and loving it. And I think that's where he probably falls down, is that he doesn't understand the football club or the area and actually what it means, what the football club means to the people. Because and I know that the difference between having a good week and a bad week in Newcastle is what happens on a Saturday afternoon at St James's Park. People work hard all week to spend their money on two things. One is having a good time, and the other is watching Newcastle United. And if they have a good time and Newcastle is successful, that's a great week for the people in Newcastle, and they're happy with that, and he probably doesn't understand that.
But when he comes out with things like I'm not going to be able to compete with Manchester City. I'm like, do you really think anyone in Newcastle expects that, pal? Do you know what I mean? Like, spend, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 million. You can't tell me he hasn't got the capability to do that, but he wants to put it out like it's impossible to do that. That's Bournemouth spend 20 million on one player. They've got like 10,000 people watching them every week. You know?
And that's exactly right. Is that when you look at how much Bournemouth spend on a individual player, or Leicester, or you can go through 7 or 8 clubs who are probably in the same size as Newcastle now, as in where they should be in the league, as in spending terms. And I think that's the frustrating thing is that you see these guys spending 20, 25 million on one player, whereas that's the total budget for Newcastle, and that's the frustrating thing. But after all, it's his money. But if he doesn't want to be there, then that's
It's also his club, and he has a responsibility towards him at that point.
Yes, he does. Yeah, but it is his money. But if he doesn't want to be there, and if he doesn't want to spend, then let someone else come on and let someone else take it over.
Hopefully,
there was some. She was just an intermediary. Don't start with Amanda. Do you have any contact with Rafa?
Yes, yeah. Now I speak to Rafa. Rafa, when he first signed, he got me in after the first or second day and asked about the football club, about the area, what I felt needed changing or doing, and I told him everything honestly and openly. Yeah, so he's been brilliant, been very good.
It's fair to say that a lot of the media didn't really have a very fair representation of him when he came back to England. It was a bit of a...
What do you mean when he took over Chelsea?
Well, I actually remember a journalist saying to me when he first took over Chelsea, wow, I wish he'd actually gone to some of his press conferences, because I'd have treated him differently if I'd have known he was this guy.
Yeah.
And it seems like the perception of him has completely changed. I think your own perception of him has changed.
I spoke to him at the beginning of this season also, and he's very frustrated. I mean, he didn't tell me anything different to what he let out to the media, that he was pretty angry, that he'd felt that things were promised to him and hadn't been delivered. And he was open and honest and told everyone about that. But I think it was a great coup for Newcastle to get him in the first place, and then to keep hold of him, because you got to put yourself in Rafa's shoes also and think, well, what else is available other than Newcastle?
Yeah,
he's not getting any of the top 6 job at the minute.
Yeah.
And then they compare the size of the football club, what could be available, and there's nothing bigger than Newcastle. By all accounts, he loves it in England. His family are on the Wirral. So that was probably one of the reasons why he decided to stay, because of the size of the football club and what he feels he can actually achieve. And I don't think they'll be relegated. I think because of him, because of experience, because of the way they work, their setup, hard to beat.
They actually look like the now, which is a nice change.
Yeah, I think he's got a bunch of players that are willing to listen, willing to work hard. And if you work hard at Newcastle, you'll get on. That's all the fans ask, is that you put a shift in.
Going back to sort of just before you obviously went into management, when you retired as a player, what influenced that decision?
I knew that I couldn't play at the level that I wanted to. I was fortunate all my career to play at the highest level. And I was never going to be a player that was going to drift down the leagues. A friend of mine said to me many years ago, always get off the stage while people are shouting for more. And I was determined not to be this fat ass guy who had a decent career rolling around in the bottom tiers of the league. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just, personally for me, I didn't want that to happen. So and I knew I couldn't get to the standards that I wanted to continue to get to, so I had to retire. I was going to retire a year earlier actually, but it was Graham Souness that talked me around to doing the extra year.
What did he say to talk to you?
He just said, you're a long time retired, you've still got plenty to offer. I want you to be part of my team, still be the captain. You won't play every game, but I'm going to bring players in. You can go in, dip out. And I just thought, you know what, for a year I think that'll be all right. I ended up playing the vast majority of the season because I didn't get in the players that he wanted, or the players that he got in weren't quite good enough. And thankfully that extra year got me the record, the record with Jackie Milburn. And of course it was fate really, because my last ever kick of a football in a professional game was that penalty against Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. Obviously I was retiring at the end, but 5 or 6 games earlier my knee had gone and got an injury and we had to walk off injured and never played again. But one of my worst moments in football was missing the penalty for Newcastle against Sunderland at the Gallagher end. And that was always sort of rammed down my throat, and I was desperate to get a penalty against Sunderland, and it took all those years to get one against Sunderland, and ironically it was my last ever kick of a football. I don't know what I would have done if I'd have missed it.
It was textbook, wasn't it?
Thankfully it went in the back of the net, so
put his laces to it.
Well, you've clearly still got it, because there's I don't know who put the video up, but there's a video of you near a pool somewhere, like absolutely nailing it.
My son has a thing every year that he wants to put up about me scoring a goal, but my son does that.
He's funny, your son. You put a picture up of him and his sisters either side of him, and he put a rose between two thorns. It's like, this kid's got some banter. What was the first few weeks like of being retired from football? Were you just sitting around the house in your pants?
No, the first couple of weeks are alright, because it's a novelty. Is that, God, I don't have to get up, I don't have to go training, I can eat what I want, I can drink what I want, I can wake up with a hangover. It doesn't matter. It's all great for 2 or 3 months after you've retired, and then the guys go back into pre-season in July, and then you start sort of twiddling your thumbs, and then the matches start, which is the hard thing. Then it's difficult. It is difficult, because from the age of 15 to the age of nearly 36, you've had everything done for you. All you've ever known is get up, go to training, sometimes train in the afternoon, get home, prepare, work for a Saturday. Every summer, got to watch what you do, watch what you eat, and keep on ticking over training. And for 20 years, that is it, day in, day out. And then all of a sudden, that's it, gone. You're now no longer part of the football club. Football club don't want you, and you're on your own. And you're never going to get any sympathy. No one's ever looking for sympathy, because you've been paid a great wage, you've had it, but all of a sudden you just go woof. And then, as I said earlier about the adrenaline rush, whatever you do in your life, you're never going to get that rush back of scoring a goal or walking out in front of 80,000, or captaining your country, or captaining Newcastle. And that's why a lot of players get into trouble, I said, because they go chasing that drug, and that's not there.
And you didn't do that?
Well, luckily I was fortunate, because I went from one dressing room into another one, as in Match of the Day, with Hansen and Lineker and Lee Dixon and Wrighty and all the guys. So I sort of left that one, but went straight into another one. And that was hard enough. So it must be very, very difficult for the guys who have gone from the dressing room into nothing.
Have you witnessed that happen to other footballers? When
it happens all the time. Every year it happens that someone finishes playing football, and then they're just left.
One thing I'd like to talk about, if this is alright, mate, because I've known someone close to me commit suicide before, and I wanted to talk about Gary Speed. Obviously not what happened, but like, it's harder than a normal death in a way, because it's the questions and all of that. And how did you deal with losing such a good friend?
No, it was very difficult, because I was with him the day before he did it, and everything seemed fine. He was arranging to come to my foundation ball a day earlier, so he could go and play golf, and he was going to stay at my house. And this was all on this Saturday. He had done Football Focus in the morning, and I'd spoke to him and arranged him then, and I was doing Match of the Day on the evening, so we sat together and discussing all of that. He told me he was going out on the night time. I get home do Match of the Day, I get home at 3 o'clock in the morning, turn my phone onto silent, and then I wake up at 9 o'clock, and I have 20 or 25 missed calls off a good friend of his. And I just thought, because I'm Alan, I'm always first in someone's phone, and I thought someone had bum dialed me. So I rang him up and I said to him, "You pissed again last night? You've been ringing me 20 times." And that's when he delivered the news to me that you're not going to believe this. Speedo's done what he did, and then it's incredible. It was tough, it was hard.
As a fan of Speedo, because he was one of the favourites of the club, watching you go onto the pitch with the Suns, I had a lot of respect for you for doing that, like, because obviously those lads are feeling the way they're feeling, and you're standing with them. You know, I don't know, because I know you've had experience with death before, but like someone who's your age, it's such a different kind of death.
It was just so hard to take. I mean, hard for me, but you can imagine the pain his family went through, and the two boys and his missus, and his mum and dad, sister. So no, it was a tough time, very difficult. We got on great. We used to go on a golfing holiday every year. Myself, Speedo, Shay Given, Steve Harper, Terry McDermott. So we were great friends, and it was just a complete and utter shock. It was just incredible. Couldn't believe it. No, it was a tough time. Yeah. Tough.
You're now doing a documentary, I think, on is it the concussions and mental health and stuff?
Is there a link between heading a football and dementia? Because when you look around at the guys who are suffering from it and who have suffered from it, the numbers seem extremely high to the general public, and we're seeing more and more. We saw it in America. I watched the film Concussion, and that's how I sort of got into it with memory loss. I haven't got a great memory anyway, never had, and I just thought it struck with me that a lot of the more than half of the 66 World Cup winning squad had or suffering from it.
Jesus.
So I just thought the numbers are there's something not quite right here. So I went to the BBC and asked them if we could look into it more, and then we have been. So we're actually coming to the end. We've done our last bit of filming now. I've just got to do some voiceovers, and then the documentary's coming out in early to mid-November.
I'm really interested to say this because I know obviously fighters especially suffer from a lot of these things, and Chris Benoit, the WWE wrestler, they did analysis on his brain after he unfortunately killed his wife and himself, but they said he had the brain of like an 85-year-old man through all the headshots and everything that he'd taken. So like it will be interesting because when you head the ball, sometimes when you had a really hard case, you think, Jesus Christ, I'll not be doing that again.
Well, Jeff Astle died, and his brain was diagnosed with having CTE, which is an industrial disease, and they said it was from heading a football. That was in 2002, 2003. So we go back and look at that, and we actually examine the brain in the documentary, and then we look at different players who are suffering from it now, and whether there is a link to actually heading it or not, because they've banned heading football in America for under 11s because of that.
But there's a lot more awareness in America, though, isn't there? Because obviously NFL's massive, and I think just over there in general, they're a lot more sort of health and safety conscious. Yeah. Do you, after doing this documentary and sort of coming to the end of it, do you feel in a similar way, or do you sort of see it in the same sort of?
I can't give you the results of what we found yet, because we have to. The program is
November.
It's not out yet. It's early to mid-November. Yeah. Okay. But it's been an eye opener. It's been really interesting, and difficult at times as well to see how it affects.
Does it make you think about yourself,
but also their families as well? What the families have to go through. So we hope that us doing the documentary will get the ball rolling, to get more people talking about it, to start the research and what have you, and then to find a definitive answer.
Yeah, because it's obviously something also that's close to you. You've headed a ball a lot in your career.
Well, heading was a huge part of my game, and I was taught to do it. I was told to do it, and used to practice it every single day. Sometimes heading 100, 150 balls down at Southampton as a kid, and it was a huge part of my game, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do the documentary.
Have you thought about that though? Like, as in, I wonder if I'm going to have any issues because of this.
Absolutely, that's one of the reasons why I did it, because, as I said, my memory's hopeless. So I wanted to find out whether there was any link there. So,
all right, so we've got some Twitter questions for you just to finish off on. And there are some ridiculous ones here.
No, that's fine.
Ray Scott from Whitley Bay Barbers reckons he was your bodyguard. Is he full of shit?
Yes, he is full of shit.
My mate's been wanting to know that for like 20 years. I love it.
You've been to Whitley Bay.
I've been to Whitley Bay, yeah.
You don't need to.
Not with Ray
so
though.
much, yeah.
Funniest teammate to go on the piss with?
Funniest teammate, can I drink? I'd have to be Rob Lee.
No,
Really?
he's a good mate of yours, isn't he?
Yeah, good lad. We had some good times.
What about best golfing partner? What about that?
Best golfing partner? Who's the best golfer? I don't know.
Best golfing partner.
I don't know about. I was going to say the best round of golf that I've been part of was Shea Given turning up, still under the influence from the night before, off 18 and shooting 51 points.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, with a shank off the first tee.
Someone's asking, will Harry Kane break your record?
He's got a chance, barring injuries and whether he's going to stay at Tottenham or not. But he'll have a
He's
chance.
in a good team as well. Whereas at Newcastle, we sort of fluctuated, didn't we?
But also injuries. I mean, if you go through out your career nowadays with the pace of the game and the number of games without having one serious injury, then you're fortunate. So I mean, I had 3, so I had someone else's as well, I think.
Do people often ask you what you'd be like in nowadays Premier League?
Yeah, I'd still be the same.
Yeah.
Harry Kane would have been the same 20 years ago.
Yeah.
If you're a goal scorer, you find a way.
Yeah.
Who annoys you most on Match of the Day?
Who annoys me most on Match of the Day? I'm not going to say Righty because we just laugh all day with Righty. Who annoys me most? Martin Keown, same as he did when I was playing against him.
Yeah.
We met Martin Keown on a shoot a while back, and when he talks to you, everything's really sincere, bro.
He's sincere about absolutely. Do you want to go for a sandwich? I had a great sandwich once. I've got to tell you about this.
It feels like he's reading us a poem every time he talks to us, but I kind of like the sound of his voice. It's got soothing.
He is quite soothing.
You know what I mean?
Maybe that's why I fall asleep to Match of the Day.
Thoughts on Blackburn since Jack Walker's passing? Obviously, the Yankees have taken them over.
Devastated to see them where they are and how they are at this moment in time. When you compare the club to when we won the Premier League to the club now, it's just incredible to see what's happened. I just hope it changes for that area, for the people, because I know what it means to the people who support the football club, and it's a great football club.
The Blackburn fans still love you. Like they always do. We're tweeting in a lot as well. Like,
yeah, I had 4 great years there, and of course that's the only place where I won my trophies, the Premier League. So it's great times.
It's still amazing to think you won a Premier League title with Blackburn.
Amazing.
When you say it seems fairly surreal, doesn't it?
Mad. And when you compare that to where they are now, it's terrible to see.
It's a shame because they are a great club. Yeah. We had one lad ask, would you swap the Premier League with Blackburn to have like an FA Cup with Newcastle?
Oh, that's an unfair question, that is.
We all know the answer. Moving on.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, that is. Yeah, move on.
Did you really chin Keith Gillespie?
Yes. And he deserved it.
Yeah.
And he agrees he deserved it.
Really?
Yeah.
He seems like he's really opened up since he got over a lot of the issues he had or whatever. So
yeah, he was being a bit of a pain one night, repeatedly.
How do you chin someone? Sorry, can I? I'm not asking for like technique, but
we're going to teach him.
I mean, I know how to punch by sleep you, but how do you chin someone? It just seems really it seems like a weird thing to do.
Phrase.
Just a phrase. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't actually use the chin because it looks powerful.
No.
Okay.
Caught him somewhere on the chin, I think, but I didn't chin him.
The best side you ever played in?
It would have been that 96 team. That
Euro 96.
Yeah, Euro 96.
When you stepped out, you must have felt pretty confident.
No, it was brilliant. Yeah, it was great, and the 98 team. That way, I mean, we were unlucky against Argentina when Bex was sent off. There were 2 great teams. Club wise, it's difficult to say. That one at Blackburn was incredible, as I said, to take on the big boys. But when I came to Newcastle, that team going forward with Ferdinand, Ginola, Beardsley, Gillespie on one side, again, it was very much like the Blackburn team, but that 96 team in the Euro Championships was pretty special.
Biggest setback you've had in your life, if there's anything that stands out?
My 3 injuries.
Yeah.
My 3 kept me out for. I probably missed 2.5 seasons, maybe 3 seasons of football because of my injuries. Yeah, but you can't do anything about that, I suppose.
Is there anyone from the Newcastle team currently who maybe one of the younger players who you look at and think he might make it, like he might become one of the really good players in the Premier League?
Not yet. Not yet, no. And that's been one of Newcastle's problems, is that the lack of talent they've been able to bring through over the years. Their youth system's been non-existent really, other than
how Peter Biercy's still in the job. It's anyone's guess.
Stephen Taylor, Shola. I mean, when you look at the lack of kids that have come through, when you compare it to 30 years ago when all those players were coming through, and it's incredible that the lack of talent that's there.
Kids are still playing football, so what's changed?
Maybe a shift in emphasis as well.
But you were discovered at Southampton, so like you were.
Yeah, it was totally different then, because you could have a scouting system. Southampton could have a scouting system in Newcastle, and could take players from Newcastle down to Southampton, where of course that's different now. You can't do that.
What do you think of Mikel Merino? Because he's quite an exciting player.
He's had a good start. Fans like him. Good on the ball, tidy. Yeah, he's had a good start.
Rafa clearly, he's a bit of a Xabi Alonso type figure. Yeah.
Last thing I just wanted to ask is, how would you like to be remembered?
That's a good question.
Thank you. I use it on every interview. It's my favourite.
Someone who worked hard, who cared, who gave a little bit back.
That's awesome. Last thing I want to say is, when I was 10 years old, my mum bought us birthday tickets to go and see Newcastle. We're queued up just like you described. And I built this hope up my whole life of like, when I go and see Newcastle, Shearer's going to score. And it was an FA Cup game against Charlton Athletic, and it was the most miserable match. I think you'd only just signed. And we got to extra time, it was 1-1, nothing. And my mum gets up at full time. I'm like, no, we're going to play the half hour now, we've got to stay. Free kick,
yeah.
Top corner, at the stand I was in the John Hall. Everything goes black because now I can't see anyone because everyone's too tall for us. But you made that memory, and it's one of the happiest ones I've got in my life, mate.
Good.
So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very good. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much for coming on.
No problem. Cheers.
Also, thanks to Coral for sponsoring me and Alan Shearer. All of the money. Fantastic.
To be fair, Elliot and Simon put this one together, so thank you very much.
Big thanks to them. Awesome. If you want to bet with them, our link is in the description below. Don't forget to like this video, stay subscribed to the True Geordie YouTube channel, and we'll see you later.